Peace be with you. The Igneous Rose Part 2. Chapter 18. The Arhat's Cross. The fire of your igneous rose, which is situated in the larynx of your mental body, bums and sparkles within the ardent flames of the universe. Now, O Arhat, you enter the 3 higher chambers of the tower of your temple. The kundalini of your mental body opens the first chamber of your cerebellum. Do you know what this signifies, my child? Woe to you, O Arhat! Receive your 4th cross so that you may crucify your mental body. Do you know what this means, my brother? Do you know what the mind signifies? You are now worthy of pity, O Arhat. You must work in the great work of the Father. You will be an immolated lamb upon the altar of sacrifice. You will work incessantly for humanity. You will perform works of a genius, but do not expect a crown of laurels, my child. Remember that you must sacrifice your mind. Humanity will make a mockery of your work. They will ridicule you and give you bile to drink. Your works of merit will be received with loud guffaws, and humanity will reward all of your sacrifices with their deepest despises. You are worthy of compassion, O Arhat. The cross of your mental body is large and very heavy. Your enemies will be your same spiritual brothers. They will punish you severely, and they will mock you, O Arhat. The spiritualists of all the denominations will qualify you as an evil one, and they will ridicule you, O Arhat. You will be slandered, mocked, and hated by all the world. This is how you will. Crucify your mind, O Arhat. Apollonius of Tyana spent his last years enclosed within a prison. Paracelsus was qualified as a friend of gypsies and executioners by all of his Judas. All the pedants of that time hated to death the eminent Theophrastus Bombastus of Hohenheim, Aureola Paracelsus. This great wise man, Paracelsus, gave humanity medical wisdom that will be accepted and comprehended only by the human species of the Aquarian age. Agrippa, hated by men, wandered from city to city, and all the world distrusted him and qualified him as a sorcerer. All the saints of Jerusalem, all the martyrs of humanity were hated and persecuted. O Arhat, the cross of your mental body is heavy. You are now an enigmatic personage, my child, and all the spiritualistic brothers qualify you as an evil one, as being intolerant, as tenebrous, simply because they do not comprehend you. You know this. Blessed be those who love us, because they comprehend us. Blessed be those who hate us, because they do not comprehend us. Chapter 19. The Woman. Woman has the same rights as man. Woman also reaches the level of adept of the White Fraternity. Joan of Arc is a master of major mysteries of the White Fraternity. H. P. Blavatsky, author of The Secret Doctrine, reached the level of adept, and she is a master of major mysteries of the White Fraternity. In almost all the temples of the mysteries, we find many female adepts working for humanity. Woman awakes her sacred serpent in the same way as man. If a woman who is married wants to awake her kundalini, then she must practice sexual magic with her husband. Married women must transmute by means of the mind, as we have taught in the preceding pages. Sexual alchemy is the fundamental base of every progress. Sexual alchemy is the foundation of the wisdom of the fire. The temple, the womb, and the mattress of the sexual laboratory is love. The philosophical stone of the alchemist is elaborated when combining salt, sulfur, and mercury within this mattress of sexual alchemy, by means of a progress of erotic combustion. Within the sexual mattress of our organic laboratory, the explosions of passionate fire combine certain ethereal, astral, mental, volitive, conscious, and divine arcanums. This occurs in order to elaborate certain igneous elements, whose substantial principles belong to the intimate, with the ardent fire of the erotic thirst. The woman accumulates a very large quantity of elemental fire from nature while in the state of sexual excitement, and when her fire is combined with the erotic magnetism of her husband, then it engenders certain cosmic powers whose tremendous explosions open the spinal chambers. The boiling passionate fires of man and woman, when mutually and erotically combined, create truly ardent tempests that disturb the atmosphere and cause the tenebrous ones, who are the escorts of each chamber, to go mad. These submerged entities attack the intrepid ones by defending the fires whose synthetic and scientific principles are enclosed in the 33 internal chambers of our spinal column. These tenebrous ones defend their rights, and for this reason they qualify us as thieves of powers. This is the mystery of Baphomet. The rose elaborates its perfume with the clay of the earth. The slithering worm does not like the gardener who removes its clay. Our disciples will now comprehend on what basis do the tenebrous ones qualify the sexual alchemists as thieves. Each chamber is strongly defended by tenebrous legions. It is necessary to defeat these tenebrous ones with the edge of the sword in order to take each chamber by force. Now the devotees of the path will understand why Christ said that heaven is taken by force. The 12 zodiacal salts ardently boil within our endocrine glands during the moments of sexual alchemy. These 12 zodiacal salts enclose the seminal principles of the 12 constellations, whose ardent powers act over these tiny laboratories, which are our endocrine glands, by particularly activating the hormonal production of our liquid nervous system. The superexcitement of our endocrine glands is accompanied by gigantic igneous combinations within all of the chakras and essences of our internal vehicles. When sexually excited, the woman has the power to transplant the synthetic principles of the 12 salts to the larynx of the man. This is how such an organ acquires hermaphrodite principles that later gives the intimate the power to create by means of the word. The combination of the igneous principles between the man and the woman are also intimately related with a sequence of salty interchanges that prepare the feminine larynx as an angelic creative organ. The very ardent fire of great sexual excitement gives origin to gigantic combinations of principles, whose synthetic outcome becomes the opening of the spinal chambers. The stronger the restraint of the act is, and the more violent the fight is, the more potent will be the seminal steam that will rise. Thus, the force of the ascension of the Kundalini will be more terrific. The key of sexual dominion resides in the mind. The mind is dominated by means of willpower. We must flagellate the mind with the terrific whip of willpower when restraining passionate excitement, because the den of desire resides in the mind. We must speak to the mind as this: mind, take this sexual excitement away from me immediately. This formula permits us to take away the intense passion in the precise moment of the restraint of the act. The union with the intimate is possible only by means of sexual alchemy. If we take the mental body of a theorizing pseudo-spiritualist student and very carefully examine it, we find that it is a true walking library. If we then carefully examine the church of the coccyx, or the chakra Muladhara, we then find that the Kundalini is totally enclosed there without showing the slightest signs of awakening. If we examine the Shashumna channel of this theorizing student, we then find not even a trace of the sacred fire. We find that the 33 chambers of this student are totally filled with darkness. This internal examination will bring us to the conclusion that such a student is lamentably wasting his time. The sacred fire awakens when the lunar and solar atoms of our seminal system come into contact within the bone of the coccyx. However, if we waste our solar atoms with the seminal ejaculation, then there is not a sufficient amount of atoms to make contact in order to awaken this fire. The student can have a mental body converted into a true library, but all of the 33 chambers of his spinal column will be disconnected, incomplete and profound. Darkness. In conclusion, this student is an inhabitant of the darkness, of the abyss. It is impossible to raise the fire of Kundalini with only the lunar atoms of the cephalous rachidial liquid. It is indispensable that the solar atoms of the seminal system make contact with the lunar atoms of the cephalous rachidial liquid in order to awake the sacred fire. If we waste the solar atoms, we will then have no capital in order to make an atomic combination, which permits the awakening of the Kundalini by means of sexual magic. The Kundalini is of an absolutely sexual nature, and it is only possible to awaken it by means of sexual alchemy. If we carefully examine the internal constitution of a mystical person, we will find a very beautiful conscious body, Buddhic, and the luminous and reflector ethers of the ethereal body will be very voluminous. However, the common and current mystic ejaculates his seminal liquid, and when the chakra Muladhara is analyzed, we find that the Kundalini is entwined there without showing any signs of awakening. The 33 chambers of the spinal column of this mystic of our example are filled with darkness because the fire has never passed through them. The good philanthropic deeds beautify the luminous and reflector ethers of this mystic, and his bookish culture gives to his mind a rich erudition. Yet, this mystic has not penetrated into the mysteries of the fire because his Kundalini is not awakened. In spite of the fact that he may be a good and virtuous person, he will not go beyond being a good and virtuous person. He will not go beyond being a good and kind shadow within the cold and the darkness of the abyss. Some people sustain that the Kundalini can be awakened by means of yoga. We do not deny this affirmation. However, we affirm that the authentic yogi is totally chaste. If this is not so, then yogis would not have atomic capital in order to awaken the Kundalini. Vivekananda says in his lectures of Raja Yoga that the yogi must be totally chaste in order to convert his sexual force into Hojas, Christic energy. This is how yogis achieve the awakening of the Kundalini and the union with the intimate. The sexual alchemy of yogis is related with respiratory exercises and with certain practices of internal meditation that have never been printed in any published book. If the yogi fornicates, he does not have sufficient atomic capital in order to make the spinal fires ascend. The yogi lamentably wastes his time. Yoga practices are only for those that belong to the Oriental ray. Among the Gnostics, the woman is the priestess of the Blessed Mother Goddess of World. There are some who want to reach the union with the intimate without even taking the Kundalini into account. These students are perfectly lost because the union with the intimate is possible only by means of fire. This is why the word Ignis Natura Renovator Integra was placed upon the cross of the martyr of the Calvary. The fire renews nature incessantly. Are you a Gnostic? Are you a mystic? Are you a yogi? Remember, good disciple, you can only enter Eden through the door from which you departed. That door is sex. It is said that there are many ways. We, the masters of the major mysteries of the Great White Lodge, affirm that there is only one door to enter into Eden, and that door is sex. All who do not obey the command of the Lord Jehovah, all who continue to eat the forbidden fruit, are disciples of the doctrine of the Baalim. As the sacred scriptures states, for them will be the burning lake of fire and sulfur. This is the second death. The Gnostic man must intensely love his priestess. Woman must live always filled with harmony, and she must cultivate the artistic sense. Woman penetrates the distinct halls of the fire, and she Christifies herself at the same time as the sacred fire ascends through her spinal medulla. Woman must restrain the sexual act and withdraw from the man before the orgasm in order to avoid the loss of her seminal liquid. This is how the Kundalini awakes in the woman, just as it does in the man. Masculine magnetism, when mixed with feminine magnetism, starts the awakening of the sacred fires in woman. Woman must cultivate beauty, music, and love. Let us awake within ourselves the occult majesty of our interior beauty. Allow me to affirm the majesty of our being. I am a solitary tree. I am the tree of life. Chapter 20. The Lion of the Law. You have now entered the 32nd vertebra of your mental body's spinal. Medulla, O Arhat. This is the second holy chamber of your head. The burning fire of the universe now ardently sparks in this holy chamber of your mental body. This is the degree of the Lion of the Law. Naturi Santa Sororera has given birth to a new Lion of the Law in the world of the cosmic mind. Examine well the hoof of your beast and be happy, O Arhat. A terrific ray and a frightful exhalation falls from the infinite heavens, and with the thunder of their voices makes the earth tremble. It is the ray of cosmic justice. This ray is beyond good and evil. The Lion of the Law is beyond good and evil. The Lion of the Law knows good from evil and evil from good. In everything good there is something evil, and in everything evil there is something good. The superhuman is beyond good and evil. Justice is the supreme pity and the supreme impiety of the law. The intelligence of the superhuman is frightening, but the superhuman scorns intelligence because intelligence is a quality of property and prana, matter and energy. The intimate is beyond intelligence. He abides in the kingdom of supreme omniscience. The intimate is even far beyond love. He abides in the supreme kingdom of happiness. On an inferior plane, the happiness of God expresses itself as love, and love is the summum of wisdom. The two columns of our white fraternity are wisdom and love. The scale of cosmic justice has two plates in perfect equilibrium. Wisdom is in one of the two plates and love is in the other. Love and wisdom maintain the two plates of the scale in perfect equilibrium. Any disequilibrium of the scale is punished by the lions of the law. Children of humans, remember that the two plates of the cosmic scale are wisdom and love. Have you sinned against the goddess moon? If so, how can you demand happiness and love? Have you sinned against wisdom? Then, my brother, how can you be surrounded with happiness? The lion of the law is fought with the scale. When an inferior law is transcended by a superior law, the superior law washes away the inferior law. Perform good deeds so that you may pay your debts. Whosoever has capital pays and does well in business. When we do not have capital and a fault is found in the books of karma, we must pay with pain. Now enter, O Arhat, into the holy temple of the cosmic mind in order to receive your feast. You are now a new lion of the law in the world of cosmic understanding. Your mind burns within the ardent sparks of Naturi Santa Sororera. The mind of the lions of cosmic understanding burns within the blazing flames of this igneous rose of the universe. Love is law, but conscious love. Chapter 21. Jezebel's table. Notwithstanding I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. Revelation 2:20-23. The prophets of Baalim eat at Jezebel's table. The Baalim are the black magicians. The prophets of Baalim who teach how to mystically fornicate and how to eat things sacrificed unto idols are all the theorists and spiritualists of the world. Therefore, all their teachings are food sacrificed unto idols. The gentleman Parzival Krumheller, sovereign commander of the so-called ancient Rosicrucian order, with headquarters in Germany, is sending courses of black sexual magic to his tenebrous disciples. In his course, he advises the mystical seminal ejaculation, orgasm. This is how Jezebel seduced my servants. This is how she teaches them to fornicate and how to eat theories sacrificed unto idols. This course of negative and tenebrous sexual magic is the same horrible and satanic tantric doctrine preached and taught by all the prophets of Baalim who eat at Jezebel's table. With this repugnant phallic cult, the Kundalini awakens negatively and gloomily submerges itself into the human's own atomic infernos, giving the astral body the horrible and satanic appearance of the Lucifers. The gentleman Parzival Krumheller betrayed his own father, Arnold Krumheller, with his tenebrous phallic cult. He publicly remained declared as a black magician. And the Lord Jehovah commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Genesis 2:16-17, 10. These are the commands of the Lord Jehovah. Everyone who violates these commands is a black magician. These are the commands of the Lord Jehovah. Everyone who violates these commands will be cast into the burning lake of fire and sulfur. This is the second death. The second death is a psychic death. The tantric personality of the fornicator is separated from his divine triad and is submerged into a state of demonic consciousness. Then, he is submerged into the atomic worlds, known in the Orient as Avicii. These tantric personalities are then slowly disintegrated, separated from their superior being. And I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. The prophets of Baalim who eat at Jezebel's table will die in the abyss. Listen to me, my brother, thus saith Jehovah of the hosts, if thou wilt walk in my ways, and if thou wilt keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts, and I will give thee places to walk among these that stand by. Zechariah 3:7. My brother, keep the command of the Lord Jehovah. See the forbidden fruit. Be nourished with its aroma. Be delighted with its perfume, but do not eat it, because the burning lake of fire and sulfur is for fornicators. This is the second death. Trillions of solar atoms are lost in the seminal ejaculation, orgasm. Afterwards, in order to replace them, our sexual organs collect trillions of satanic atoms from the infernos of the human being. These satanic atoms are absorbed within the astral body and give it the appearance of Satan. The negative theory of the tenebrous ones consists of taking advantage of the absorbed hormones in order to awaken the kundalini and to achieve tantric powers. Nevertheless, what awakens with this practice is the negative aspect of the serpent, Kundartagwaiter. When submerged into the human being's own atomic infernos, this negative aspect of the serpent assumes the tantric form in the astral body, which is represented by the tail of Satan. The sexual glands are not closed capsules. They excrete hormones, and they also absorb hormones. The prophets of the Baalim who eat at Jezebel's table take advantage of the hormones of sexual absorption by means of their phallic cult. This is done in order to awaken their satanic powers. In this manner, the woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, teaches and seduces my servants to commit fornication, and to eat of things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. Revelation 2:21-22. The mind of our disciples must be liberated from the satanic fires. The tenebrous Luzbel, dweller of the Avicii, carries an ancient scroll on his tantric tail, Kundartagwaiter, on which this negative sexual magic is written with ominous characters. This is what the traitor Parsival Krumhefler and the sinister Baal Omar Cherenzi Lind are teaching. There is the need to transmute the water into wine in order to raise our metallic serpent upon the reed, as Moses did in the wilderness. This is how the soul unites itself with the intimate, within the blazing universal. Flames. The mind must become chaste and pure within the august thunder of thought. The mind must not eat things sacrificed unto idols. The mind must not let itself be seduced by Jezebel. Be pure, my brother, be perfect, and be chaste in thought, word, and action. This path is very difficult, so straight and so narrow, and it is because no one likes chastity. The spiritualists of all schools hate chastity because it is the door to Eden. They do not like Eden because they eat at Jezebel's table, and they worship the Baalim. Strive to enter in at the strait gate, for many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in, and shall not be able. When once the master of the house is risen up, and hath shut to the door, and ye begin to stand without, and to knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open unto us, and he shall answer and say unto you, I know you not whence ye are. Then shall ye begin to say, We have eaten and drunk in thy presence, and thou hast taught in our streets. But ye shall say, I tell you, I know you not whence ye are, depart from me, workers of iniquity. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, when ye shall see Abraham, and Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets, in the kingdom of God, and you yourselves thrust out. Luke 13:24-28. Humanity has been fornicating for more than 18 million years, and if the way of fornication was the positive way, then humanity would not have hunger, or there would be no wars, and all human beings would now be angels. But, behold humanity, my brother, it has been ejaculating the semen for 18 million years. Is it perhaps happy? Have humans now become angels? Is earth an Eden? If the way of animal passion was the true way, then the human being would now be an angel. What is new in the teachings of Parsifal and Chirenzi? Is it perhaps a new thing to teach human beings how to ejaculate the semen? In which epoch did the human being become converted into an angel by fornication? Human evolution has failed, precisely because of the seminal ejaculation, orgasm. Now what? There was a great reunion of Mahatmas in a temple of Oriental Tibet, in which all of the great creators of the human being were present. A great son of the fire descended from the infinite space and spoke the following: "My brethren, we must recognize that human evolution has failed. We, the gods, committed a mistake when creating this humanity. There, in the dawn of life, we wanted to convert these virginal sparks into gods, but the result was demons." Following this, the great being was enumerating, one by one, all of the prophets who had been sent to help humanity. He was narrating how all of them were stoned, persecuted, poisoned, and crucified by the human species. Upon finishing his discourse, the great son of the light departed from the temple. The major brothers then consulted the god Sirius in order to try to resolve this gigantic problem. The answer arrived swiftly. It can be synthesized in the following verses. "And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." Revelation 18:2-3. Only a tiny handful of souls will reincarnate in the new Aquarian age. Millions of human souls, separated from the intimate, are now sinking into the tenebrous abyss, and they will not reincarnate during the new Aquarian age. And the great harlot is dressed with the colors purple and scarlet. She is decked with gold, precious stones and pearls, and her chalice is filled with abomination, filthiness, and fornication. This is Jezebel, at whose table the prophets of Baalim eat. The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Upon the head of Jezebel, she that calls herself a prophetess, is written this name: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of fornications and abominations of the earth. Chapter 22. The Crown Chakra. You have reached the 33rd chamber, O Arhat. The higher 3 chambers of your head have now been united by means of fire. A metallic bell makes all the places of the earth tremble, and the crown center of your pineal gland shines within the blazing flames of the cosmic mind. Your white tunic shines terrifically within the ardent sparks of the universal flames. Ineffable orchestras resound in the temple within the great rhythms of the fire. This igneous rose of your mental crown makes your face and your august temples shine within the undulating flames of the mental world. This is the lotus of 1,000 petals. This is the crown of saints. This is the eye of Polavoyance. This is the diamond eye, O Arhat. You must now connect your pineal gland with your pituitary gland by means of the fire. Persevere and do not lose heart, my son. Throw your crown at the feet of the Lamb. You have received the crown of life, O Arhat. You have previously performed this work with the igneous serpent of your physical body, with the igneous serpent of your ethereal body, and with the igneous serpent of your astral body. Now, my brother, you have performed this work with the serpent of your mental body. This is the 4th degree of the power of the fire. Later, you must perform an identical work with the 5th, 6th, and 7th serpent. 2 groups of serpents exist. Each group has 3 serpents, plus the sublime coronation of the 7th serpent that unites ourselves with the one with the law, and with the Father. Therefore, we must repass our 33 chambers 7 times. The 7 degrees of the power of the fire are scaled in a spiral way. Ezekiel described the 7 degrees of the power of the fire and the 33 chambers of our temple as follows. And the side chambers were 3 one over another and 30 in order, and they entered into the wall which was of the house for the side chambers round about, that they might have hold, but they had not hold in the wall of the house. And there was an enlarging and a winding about still upward to the side chambers, for the winding about of the house went still upward round about the house. Therefore the breadth of the house was still upward, and so increased from the lowest chamber to the highest by the midst. I saw also the height of the house round about the foundations of the side chambers were a full reed of 6 great cubits. Ezekiel 41:6-8. Then said he unto me, The north chambers and the south chambers, which are before the separate place, they be holy chambers, where the priests that approach unto the Lord shall eat the most holy things. There shall they lay the most holy things, and the meat offering, and the sin offering, and the trespass offering, for the place is holy. When the priests enter therein, then shall they not go out of the holy place into the outer court, but there they shall lay their garments wherein they minister, for they are holy, and shall put on other garments, and shall approach to those things which are for the people. Ezekiel 42:13-14. Each one of our 33 vertebrae of our spinal column possesses an atomic god of an immaculate beauty. Now, all the 33 atomic gods flamingly shine within the mind of the Arhat. The 7 igneous roses of the spinal medulla ardently spark with the burning fire of your medullar channel, O Arhat. Chapter 23. The 7 igneous roses of the reed. Our spinal column has 7 igneous roses. These 7 igneous roses enter into activity with the sacred fire of the Sushumna channel. This sacred fire is engendered when the solar and lunar atoms of our 2 ganglionic cords come into contact. In the Orient, these 2 sympathetic cords are known as Ida and Pingla. Ida and Pingla function along the curved surface of our spinal medulla, where the Sushumna channel is located. These 2 sympathetic cords are our 2 witnesses, our 2 olive branches, and the 2 candlesticks that are before the God of the earth. These 2 cords emerge from the center of the sacrum, which is called the Triveni of the medulla oblongata. When the solar and lunar atoms of these 2 cords come into contact in the sacrum, the sacred fire awakens, and the Triveni or Muladhara enters into activity. This is the church of the coccyx, which has the power of opening the prostatic or fundamental chakra. The vertebral column is known by the Hindus as Brahmadanda or the staff of Brahma. It is also symbolized by the bamboo reed with 7 knots that the yogis from India carry. The Sushumna channel together with the 2 sympathetic cords are symbolized by the bamboo reed with 3 knots that the Trans-Himalayan yogis use. They continuously reunite themselves at the lake Mansaravara. This is why they are known as tridandans. This is what the Brahmanic singulus of the 3 vital airs of Purakasa symbolizes. The right ganglionic cord corresponds to the right nasal cavity. The left ganglionic cord belongs to the left nasal cavity. The right ganglionic cord is solar, positive. The left ganglionic cord is lunar, negative. When the solar and lunar atoms of the Brahmanic cord come into contact in the center of the sacrum Triveni, then the Kundalini enters into activity. It then opens its way towards Brahmarandra, which is the frontal fontanelle of a newborn, in order to shine brightly in the male brow, neck, and heart, in a successive order. The seat of Brahma is in the heart. The heart is the seat of Atma Buddhi Manas. The spiritual man resides in the heart. The first serpent that corresponds to the physical body reaches only to Brahmarandra in order to shine with splendor in the frontal chakra. This center has 96 rays. The second serpent that corresponds to the ethereal body reaches only to the middle brow. However, the 5 other serpents must inevitably reach the heart. The second rose of our spinal column opens the solar plexus. This center has 10 rays, 5 active and 5 passive. However, the sacred fire puts all of them into complete activity. The brain and the heart totally shine with the fire of Kundalini. The septenary activity of the sacred fire in the pineal gland is reflected in the aura of the heart. This is how the sacred fire places the 7 cardiac centers into activity. The third center enters into complete activity when the Kundalini lights the 3rd igneous rose. The chakra of the heart has 12 petals. The 4th igneous rose opens our igneous wings and is intimately related with the sense of touch. This 7th igneous rose is the crown of the saints, and it has 1,000 petals of indescribable splendor. Our brain has 7 cavities, and our heart also has 7 centers. These 7 cavities of our brain correspond to the 7 scales of the divine harmonies and are occupied by Purakasa. The fifth igneous rose opens our chakra of the thyroid, which is related with the occult ear. The sixth igneous rose belongs to the 32nd vertebra of our spinal column. This is the second highest chamber of the head, and it opens the frontal chakra that gives us clairvoyance. This center has 96 rays and it shines in the middle brow with the sacred fair. The frontal chakra is the organ of vision in the psychic plane. This organ resides in the pituitary gland, which has 7 types of hormones. The seventh igneous rose corresponds to the pineal gland. The pituitary gland is only the instrument or the carrier of the light of the pineal gland. In the woman, the pineal gland corresponds to the uterus and its peduncles with the fallopian tubes. In the man, the pineal gland is found intimately related with the sexual glands. We now explain to ourselves why this chakra cannot enter into activity in fornicators. Any sexual decline is reflected in the pineal gland. The entire majesty of God is expressed in the seventh igneous rose. The psychic mental man resides in the head with his 7 gates, and Atman Buddhi Manas, the heavenly man, resides in the heart. We must unite the mind with the heart by means of the fire. The chalice and the heart must march in complete equilibrium. This is possible only by uniting the head and the heart by means of the fire. The brain circumvolutions have been formed by the Argentine armor of the mental body. The third ventricle of the brain is filled with light, and this light becomes splendorous with the sacred fire of the Kundalini. The sixth cavity belongs to the pineal gland. The pineal gland or crown center is a rounded body of 6 to 8 millimeters in length. It possesses a reddish-gray, obscure color and is connected with the posterior part of the third ventricle of the brain. It has 2 very fine and beautiful medullar fibers in its base that diversely direct themselves towards the optic thalamus. The pituitary body is found connected to the pineal gland by a very fine capillary channel, which disappears in the corpse. The pineal gland is surrounded by a very fine and tiny sand. This tiny sand is the acerbulus cerebri, the concreteness of the mental body and the efficient instrument of the mind. The 7 capital chakras that govern the 7 plexus reside in the head. When the mental body has been totally Christified by the 4th serpent, it converts itself into an efficient instrument for the intimate. The real being utilizes the mind as an element of regulation and control for the 7 astral plexus. The mind controls its plexus by means of the 7 capital chakras of the brain. The solar plexus is our brain of emotions, and it awakes the hepatic and splenic plexus when entering into activity. The heart represents our divine triad. The hepatic and splenic plexus represent our inferior quaternary. Esoterically, the solar plexus is the brain of the stomach in which we place Saturn, which is the sun of our organism. The spiritualists of all schools have studied the astral chakras, but they have never studied the 7 candlesticks of the mental body that glow in the fire of the Arhat. Our chakras are septuple in their constitution, as well as in our sacred serpent and our Brahmanic cord. The 7 igneous roses of our spinal medulla are also septuple in their internal constitution. Our brain has 7 cavities, and our heart also has 7 divine centers. His sacred fire enters into activity when the solar and lunar atoms of the Brahmanic cord come into contact in the Triveni. This contact is possible only by intensely practicing sexual magic with our spouse, or by means of the sacrifice of a complete and definitive sexual abstention. The most powerful mantras that are known in the entire infinite for the awakening of the sacred fire are KANDIL BANDIL Rrrrr. These mantras are vocalized in a singing form as follows: Kan, resounding voice, Dil, decreasing voice, Ban, resounding voice, Dil, decreasing voice, Rrrr, rolled. The letter R is pronounced with a high sound and rolled, imitating the sound of the rattles of a rattlesnake. The first igneous rose of our spinal column corresponds to the reproductive and respiratory organs of the race. The second igneous rose corresponds to the sense of taste. The third igneous rose corresponds to the heart. The fourth igneous rose corresponds to the wings. The fifth igneous rose corresponds to the ear. The sixth igneous rose corresponds to the sense of sight. The seventh igneous rose corresponds to the diamond eye, eye of Brahma, crown chakra or center of polyvoyance that permits us to see in all the planes of consciousness. All of our senses are intimately related with the tattvas and with the distinct spheres or planes of cosmic consciousness that express themselves through the seven igneous roses of our spinal column. The awakening of the seven igneous roses gives us access to the superlative planes of cosmic consciousness. This ascension is performed in a spiral through the 7 degrees of the power of the fire. The sacred fire opens the avenues of the truth. The sense of touch belongs to the fourth igneous rose, to the eternal wings that permit us to soar from sphere to sphere in the planes of superlative consciousness, where only the happiness of the being reigns. Chapter 24. The reed of your mental body. The serpent of your mental body has now reached Brahmarandra, the sacred center of the frontal fontanelle of newborn children. This is the superior orifice of your reed, O Arhat. This orifice remains closed in the common and current persons, yet the Master opens it with the fire. Receive the symbolic reed of your mental body, O Arhat. The sacred fire has opened its way through your cranium and now departs and enters into the surrounding atmosphere like a blaze of flames that ardently spark. You shine in the world of the mind as a splendorous sun, O Arhat. You have converted yourself into an ardent flame in the world of the cosmic mind. Ineffable music resounds in the environs of the temple. Receive your bouquet of flowers, O Arhat. A train is moving rapidly, being pulled by an ardent engine, red as the burning fire of outer space. You must understand the symbol, my child. You must pull a very heavy train with the burning fire of your flaming mind. My child, you must drag this train of human evolution on the spiral tracks of life, until you carry it to the kingdom of the Father. Misicula and Pasiculo, this is how you transform the human being. The fire transforms all. However, the human being cannot possess life if he is not a participant of Gnosis. When the sacred fire departs through Brahmarandra, then the mind of the Arhat shines within the burning flames of Mahet. The auric egg glows with the terrific fire of the Arhat. The aroma of all our innumerable personalities that we have had through the wheel of births and deaths are conserved in this auric egg. All of these personalities have died, however their aroma have remained injected in the tree of life, the intimate, and in the auric egg. It is not the human personalities which reincarnate, but the intimate, the divine triad, the tree of life whose aroma is injected by its passing leaves, passing personalities. The auric egg is the protective armor that protects all of our internal vehicles. It is the aura of the intimate. The auric egg is elaborated with the same substance as the intimate and it now shines with the fire of the Arhat. All the wisdom and all the omniscience of the 7 cosmo-creators are synthesized with the 7 degrees of the power of the fire. You must now completely unite your pineal gland with your pituitary gland by means of the fire. Our karmic debts are registered in the auric egg. The intimate is a true immolated lamb who must pay the karma of each one of his passing personalities. Tantric personalities are totally separated from their intimate and they sink themselves into the Avicii without being able to inject their aroma into the tree of life, into the divine reincarnated triad. In such cases, the eternal triad must revest itself with a new personality in order to continue its cosmic evolution, while its tantric ex-personality is slowly being disintegrated in the Avicii. In these times, human evolution is a failure. The majority of human personalities are already separated from their intimate. Only the intimates that have not lost their personalities will reincarnate in the age of Aquarius. The others, the failures, must wait in the internal worlds until the luminous age of Aquarius passes through. The last opportunity will be given to these personalities in the age of Capricorn. The dawn of Sagittarius will be definitive. The intimates that have then attained dominion over their rebel personalities will assimilate the aroma of their personalities, that is, their psychic extractions, in order to continue their cosmic evolution on the wheel of births and deaths. Failures will totally lose their tantric personalities. After they revest themselves with a new personality, they will continue their cosmic evolution as remnants. The tantric ex-personalities of the remnants, who are separated from their superior. being will slowly disintegrate in the Avicii. Our reincarnating triad is formed by Atman Buddhi. This is the eternal and indestructible triad. This is the intimate with his two twin souls, the divine soul and the human soul. This is Aum within ourselves. The terrestrial personalities are like the leaves of the marvelous tree of life. The sacred fire of the Arhat permits us to study all the great mysteries of the fire within the igneous rose of the universe. Everything which we have stated about the Avicii in this chapter can be synthesized with the following biblical verses. He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, the good seed are children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil, the harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Matthew 13:37-43. Chapter 25. Diviners and Prophets. For the idols have spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie, and have told false dreams. They comfort in vain. Therefore they went their way as a flock, they were troubled, because there was no shepherd. Zechariah 10:2. We must make a differentiation between diviners and prophets. Eliphaz Levi states the following: Diviner comes from the words divinaris, divinus, which signifies to perform the divine. Nevertheless, the Abbé Alphonse Louis Constant did not know that the word diviner is adivino in Spanish. The letter A that precedes the word means without. Spanish grammar says that the A is a preposition that indicates a separation, a disconnection. For example, theos means God, but if we place the letter A before it, then we form the word atheos, meaning atheist. The word atheist signifies a person who disbelieves in God. So then, adivino, diviner, precisely represents the contrary of what is divine, in other words, the diabolic. For instance, apolitical signifies without political attitudes, content, or bias. If we carefully read the Bible, we do not find a single word that is in favor of diviners. When the king Nebuchadnezzar commanded that the magicians, the astrologers, the diviners, and the enchanters be called in order to interpret his dream with the statue, there was not one single diviner who could interpret this arcanum for the king. Only a prophet from God appeared before the king and said, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, shew unto the king, but there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. This is textually taken from the 2nd chapter of the book of Daniel, and it invites us to meditate. Daniel, the prophet of the living God, was the only one who was able to interpret the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. The diviners are tenebrous seers. They are black magicians. The prophets are seers of the light. They are white magicians. The diviners see the images of the abyss and experience dreams of the abyss with which they predict events that do not always crystallize in the physical world. The tenebrous scenes of the abyss are truly in the abyss, but they do not always crystallize in the physical world. The prophets are seers of the light. They are people of God, illuminated by the Holy Spirit. Their predictions are exact because their pineal and pituitary glands are totally illuminated by the sacred fire. The cellists of the white fraternity are apprentices, disciples of the prophets. This is why they can serve as messengers of the prophets, speaking the words of the holy masters to the human beings. The Holy Spirit is needed in order to be a prophet. However, the disciples of our White Lodge are messengers of the prophets and disciples of the prophets. Vain dreams are from the abyss. Dreams of the light are from the light. There are hierarchies among the prophets. Illumination is achieved little by little because nature does not make jumps. There are always scales and scales, degrees and degrees in everything. There exists the seer of the seer and the prophet of the prophet. The seer of the seer is the intimate. The prophet of the prophet is the intimate. The luminous visions of our disciples come from the white hierarchies. However, if our disciples surrender themselves to fornication and take the black path, they walk far from the path of the prophets, and they become diviners. Dreams are then dreams from the abyss. They are vain dreams, and their tenebrous predictions lamentably fail. The prophets are masters of the venerable White Lodge. Diviners are the black magicians, tenebrous seers, prophets of the Baalim who eat at Jezebel's table, teaching fornication and how to eat things sacrificed unto idols. Our disciples must follow the path of perfection. They must be pure, 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 so that the very pure crystal of their imagination will be a perfect mirror in which all the precious images of the universal fire will be reflected. All impure thoughts, all hatred, all envy, jealousy, evil, etc., overshadow the very pure crystal of clairvoyance, converting our disciples into seers of the shadows, into diviners. Chapter 26. The Tree of the Science of Good and Evil. And the Lord Jehovah said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Therefore the Lord Jehovah sent him forth from the Garden of Eden, to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to keep the way of the tree of life. Genesis 3:22-24. My child, you have eaten from the tree of the science of good and evil. Therefore you have known that its fruits are sweet in the mouth, and bitter in the belly. Now, my brother, you have known what the happiness of having a child is, and what the pain of losing him is. You enjoyed all the pleasures of the human race. You wallowed as a pig in the mud of the earth, and you drank from all the tempting cups. Now, my child, break the cup of fornication so that you may return to Eden, knowing good and evil as one of us. You have eaten the forbidden fruit for 18 million years. Now, my brother, you know the taste of that fruit. This is how you have acquired the knowledge of good and evil with great bitterness. Now, you must choose not to eat from this forbidden tree, so that you may enter into Eden from where you departed. Once in Eden you will eat from the other tree of paradise, named the tree of life. Thus, you will live forever, and rivers of pure water will flow from your belly. You have suffered greatly, my child. You are an inhabitant of the valley of bitterness. With the sweat of your face, you have eaten the bread of the earth, and thorns and thistles have pierced your flesh. So, my child, do not eat of that painful fruit. You must now enter into Eden, through the door from which you departed. My brother, do not attempt to break or jump over the walls of Eden, because you can enter paradise only through the doors from which you departed. The human being departed from paradise through the door of sex, and only through this door can he enter paradise again. Eden is sex itself. Therefore, we can enter Eden only from where we departed. Vain people will uselessly try to assault the walls of Eden. We can enter paradise only through the door through which we departed. This door is sex. The theorizing spiritualists, fornicators, and other prophets of Baalim who eat at Jezebel's table will uselessly try to break the walls of Eden. My child, you have known Greeks and Romans you took part in the biblical Exodus, and the austere priests of all religions of the earth scarcely offered you a day of consolation. You covered yourself with sackcloth and proclaimed fasts and penance. The gateways of the temples of all religions of the earth hardly gave you consolation for your painful heart. However, the sting of time awoke you from the hard roughness of existence, even though you did not find any traveler who could console you along your way. Catholic or Protestant, Buddhist or Muslim, etc., are now just withered leaves within your painful heart. You were man, you were woman, and as a woman you had suitors at the foot of your window. Thus, you enjoyed orgies and banquets, feasts and uproars. You were a wanderer and a humble beggar woman, an impoverished elderly woman, and the merchants threw you out of their stores with their feet. You were a great matron among perfumes, gold, and silk, and each time that death visited you, you then saw the vanity of passing things. My brother, remember your first love, remember from where you departed, and enter through the door of Eden. The door of Eden is sex, and you departed through this door when the Lord Jehovah cast you out for having disobeyed his commandment. Now, my child, you must obey and enter. Open thy doors, O Lebanon, that the fire may devour thy cedars. Zechariah 11:1. Thus saith the Lord Jehovah of the hosts, if thou wilt walk in my ways, and if thou wilt keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts, and I will give thee places to walk among these that stand by. Zechariah 3:7. Chapter 27. Clairvoyance. We have explained in previous chapters what divine clairvoyance is. Among clairvoyants, there exist degrees upon degrees and scales upon scales. This is because illumination is achieved by degrees, little by little. It is necessary to differentiate between the clairvoyance of disciples and the clairvoyance of masters. When the master has risen his first serpent up to the middle brow, then his Buddhic body receives Buddhic clairvoyance. A star of 5 points, which radiates an immaculate, white shining light, glows upon the middle brow of his Buddhic body. When the master has carried his second serpent to the middle brow, then the frontal chakra of his ethereal body is opened and the master acquires ethereal sight. When the master has made his third serpent reach the frontal chakra of his astral body, he then becomes clairvoyant in the astral world. When the master has made his fourth serpent reach the frontal chakra of the mental body, he then becomes clairvoyant in the mental world. The same happens with the 7 degrees of the power of the fire. However, disciples can make their chakras spin. Thus, they will become clairvoyant. This is how disciples prepare themselves for the advent of the fire. A disciple could develop a very potent clairvoyance, yet, if this clairvoyance is compared with the frontal chakra of a master of major mysteries, it will be like comparing an insignificant light bulb with the splendorous light of the sun. O Arhat, the sacred fire of your mental body has opened its way to the frontal chakra of your mind. You have defeated darkness, you have defeated the tenebrous ones, and the door of your frontal chakra is opened. Now, within burning flames of blazing fire, the white dove of the Holy Spirit leaves through that open door. Receive now a tiny maroon stone. Receive it, brother. You are now a clairvoyant of Mahat. Enter the temple, my brother, in order to celebrate the feast. Now, my child, it is necessary to unite the mind and the heart by means of fire. The heart and the head must march in perfect equilibrium. The heart and the head must march equilibrated. The heart and the head must march in perfect harmony. This is possible only by uniting the heart and the head by means of fire. An avenue, a road, and certain secret chambers exist from the middle brow to the heart. Here is where the fire must pass through. It is impossible for the heart and the mind to be equilibrated and in harmony without the power of the fire. Spiritualists from all schools talk about the equilibrium between mind and heart. Yet, it is impossible for the mind and the heart to be equilibrated without the power of the fire. The head and the heart are united only by means of the Kundalini. The fire connects the mind with the divine triad, which resides in the heart. The mind gives us the bread of wisdom when it is connected with the heart by means of the fire. The mental man resides in the head, and the heavenly man resides in the heart. It is necessary to unite the mental man with the heavenly man by means of the fire. The Kundalini unites mind and heart. Intellectuals are morally depraved beings because they move themselves only under the direction of the guardian of the threshold of their mental body. They do not hear the voice of the heavenly man who resides in the heart. The mind must convert itself into an instrument of the heart. We must learn how to think with the heart. The mind must flow delectably with the exquisite feeling of the heart. The mind must become lovely and simple. The wisdom of the heart illuminates the mind. The wisdom of the heart is placed in the chalice of the mind as the blood of redemption. The mind of the Arhat is symbolized by the Holy Grail. The heart's love is the summum of wisdom. Chapter 28. The magnetic field of the root of the nose. The first chamber of the igneous road that leads from the middle brow to the heart is in the root of the nose. Knock strongly on the doors of this chamber, O Arhat. Fine temptations assault you in the world of cosmic understanding. Wealth is offered to you along with erotic opportunities for your sublime goals. However, you must remain alert like the watchman in the time of war, because these fine ordeals are dangerous, O Arhat. A magnetic field exists in the root of the nose where the solar and lunar atoms of our seminal system come into contact. This contact is possible only by means of sexual magic, because the nasal cavities are intimately related with the church of the coccyx, by means of the two ganglionic cords of our spinal medulla. The yogis of India achieve this contact of solar and lunar atoms in the root of their nose and in their Muladhara chakra by means of pranayama and chastity. The pure akasa circulates through the Sushumna channel, and its two solar and lunar currents make contact in the magnetic field of the nose when we practice sexual magic intensely. These are the three vital airs of the Brahmanic cord. These three vital airs are governed by the intimate, by means of the strength of his willpower. These solar and lunar channels must be totally pure so that the solar and lunar currents can circulate freely through its ganglionic cords, and in order for the pure akasa of the Sushumna channel to flow freely through the spinal column. This is the reason why every type of fornication is forbidden for Gnostics, as well as for yogis and mystics. When these three vital airs are strengthened by the might of willpower, then fornicators are converted into black magicians. However, the holy and chaste human beings are converted into white magicians. Therefore, Parsival and Omar Cherenzi Lin's course of sexual magic that teaches how to mix these three vital airs with fornication and with scientific seminal ejaculation, orgasm, convert human beings into black magicians. During the sexual act, our seminal substance descends into its corresponding cavity. When this seminal substance is spilled, we then lose millions of crystic solar atoms. Instantaneously, these solar atoms are substituted by millions of demonic atoms, which enter into the Brahmanic cord by means of the contractions of the genital orgasmic movements. Thus, if we strengthen the three vital airs of pure akasa by means of our willpower, then the mixing of akasa with these demonic atoms, which were collected from the infernos of the human being, result in the awakening of the luciferic serpent. Kundartagwaiter. Hence, this is a negative and demonic way. Accordingly, with the awakening of tantric powers, the inferior quaternary ends by divorcing itself from the divine triad. This is how such a quaternary converts itself into a perverse demon of the abyss. This separation is done when the bridge, known as antakarana, is broken. This cord connects the inferior quaternary with the divine triad. The antakarana corresponds to the umbilical cord of the fetus. The tenebrous and negative sexual magic of the black magician Omar Cherenzi Lind and the traitor Parsival Krumheller mixes the satanic atoms, which are collected by the sexual organs after the tantric ejaculation, orgasm, with the three vital airs and fortifies them. This is how they awake the igneous serpent in the negative way, the Kundartagwaiter. This is how the disciples of Cherenzi Lind and the disciples of the traitor Parsival are separated from their divine triad, and how they convert themselves into perverse demons. A movement of akashic circulation is established from Sushumna, Ida, and Pingla, that flows through the entire body. The magnetic field of the nose is a battlefield and a place of vigilance. The defensive atoms of the organism have their place of vigilance in this field that impedes the entering of indolent and malignant atoms, which produce many types of sicknesses. The transforming atoms and the aspiring atoms of our organism enter through this magnetic field in order to place themselves under the service of the nous atom of the heart. All the processes of the great initiations are performed in the secret, ardent chambers of the Sushumna channel. The four great initiations of major mysteries are Sotapanna, Sakradagamin, Anagamin, Arhan. These are the four paths that lead to Nirvana. However, even when the Arhan is an adept, he must still raise his fifth, sixth, and seventh serpent of his eternal divine triad in order to convert himself into an Arhat of the mist of fire. These are the seven great initiations of major mysteries. There are the 7 serpents that the human being must raise by intensely practicing sexual magic with his spouse. They can also be raised by means of the strength of the sacrifice of a total and definitive sexual abstention, as performed by the authentic yogis who follow the path of perfection, or as performed by the sublime mystics, Ramakrishna, Francis of Assisi, or Anthony of Padua. The masters of the 7th ardent scale are only one step from the fundamental root of their hierarchy. This fundamental root of the white hierarchy is found enclosed in the Baniano Humano. This marvelous being is the master of masters of the Great White Lodge. He is Sanat Kumara, the founder of the College of Initiates of the Universal White Fraternity. He is one of the 4 thrones which the Bible speaks of. This great being descended to our earth in the beginning of the Lemurian epoch, before the separation of sexes, in order to found the College of Initiates of the Great Hierarchy. He has been incarnated in a physical body since that time, without death having any power over him. He lives in Asia. The Arhan who arrives to the world of the mist of fire is one step towards the 8th and 9th initiations of the fundamental root of the hierarchy. These heights are reached by practicing sexual magic, or by vowing to a total and definitive abstention, and by walking the path of perfect holiness. Karma is not an obstacle for this because we can pay all our debts by sacrificing even the last drop of our blood in favor of all the human beings who populate the entire face of the earth. Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth, therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. Job 5:17. Whosoever has capital to pay, pays, and does well in his negotiations. Perform good deeds so that you may pay your debts. When an inferior law is transcended by a superior law, the superior law washes away the inferior law. The lion of the law is fought with the scale. Therefore, the human being can break his chains in the hour that he wishes. He can rise the 7 ardent scales, and can convert himself into a dragon of wisdom within the mist of fire. The primordial atom, Anu, is the purest atom that enters through the magnetic field of our nose. This atom cannot be multiplied in the pregenetic or primal genetic state. It is an omnigatherer. It is omniscient, omnipresent, a total sum, limited and absolutely divine. The breath of the Father-Mother emerges cold and radiant. It becomes hot and corrupted in order to become cold again and in order to be purified within the bosom of the internal space. All the atomic activity of the magnetic field of the nose and the chakra Muladhara is based on this atom. The Fohat selects all the atoms which must penetrate through our nasal cavities. The Fohat combines the distinct atomic elements for our divine goals. Each human being possesses its own Fohat, and the total addition of all the Fohats constitute the universal Fohat, the universal fire of life, whose intelligent flames combine the atomic elements of space in order to fecundate the chaotic matter. The mother sleeps, although she is always breathing. Each atom of the cosmos is condemned to incessant differentiations. Only Anu does not admit differentiations. Everything breathes, everything flows and ebbs, everything inhales and exhales. Every phenomenon of respiration is based on the respiration of the Absolute. The Absolute inhales and exhales. Each exhalation of the Absolute is a cosmic day, and each inhalation of the Absolute is a cosmic night. When the heart of our solar system began to palpitate after the great cosmic night, it continued to repeat the inhalation and the exhalation of the Absolute within the 7 Laya centers. The chaotic masses of these centers were fecundated by the Fohat in order for the 7 worlds of our solar system to emanate from the chaos. This respiration of the Absolute is repeated in the atom, in the ant, in the eagle, and in the human being. Everything flows and ebbs, everything comes and goes, everything pulses and pulses again with this rhythm of divine respiration. During the first dynasties of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, I received the code of sexual magic in a sacred room of an ancient pyramid blackened by the sun of the desert. The master, dressed with his white tunic, was standing near a vertical rod which symbolically represented the phallus. He carefully instructed me about the great mysteries of sex, with the solemn and austere voice of the hierophants. I attentively listened to the hierophant while seated upon a chair. Then, directing his penetrating eyes towards me, with a loud and authoritative voice, he told me, "Uncover your checheri." I then uncovered my sexual organ, and the master told me, from lips to ear, the once unspeakable secret of the great arcanum, which consists of sexually connecting oneself with the spouse and withdrawing from her without seminal ejaculation, which means, to restrain the sexual act. I then practiced my first ritual of sexual magic with my priestess, under the direction of the Hierophant. "This is marvelous," I exclaimed. "Whosoever violated this unspeakable secret, which is the great arcanum, was then condemned to death. His head was cut off. His heart was torn out and his ashes were thrown into the four winds. When the semen is not spilled, then the restrained desire causes our seminal energy to rise, filled with billions of Christic atoms. With their light and splendor these Christic atoms illuminate the three channels where the pure akasa circulates. The mixture of these Christic atoms, which are the result of our semen transmuted into energy, when combined with the pure akasa awakens the kundalini positively, and opens its way upwards towards Brahmarandra, through the 33 chambers of our spinal column. This is how adepthood is achieved. I educated myself at the feet of the great Hierophants, and I knew the ancient wisdom of the ancient sages of the Temple of the Mysteries. This is why I feel nothing but infinite pity when presently I see these tiny human beings of this 20th century mystically fornicating. The akasic breath penetrates through our nasal cavities and descends through our Brahmanic cord. When the akasa is reinforced by our willpower and by the willpower of the cosmic hierarchies, then it descends from above, from the heavens of Urania, and it is precipitated within the profundity of our reed, producing the hissing sound of the S. Thus, when this akashic breath collides with the solar and lunar currents and with the Christic atoms which form the kundalini, the sacred fire then rises one more vertebra, one more canon in its ascension through the 33 canons until reaching Brahmarandra. When the akashic breath, reinforced by willpower, descends through our Brahmanic cord and finds atoms of fornication, satanic atoms collected from the infernos of the human being during the movements of the genital orgasmic contraction, which occurs in the seminal ejaculation, instead of Christic atoms, the collision of the akasa with such satanic atoms would then awaken the kundalini in a negative way, awakening the kundartagwaiter. A satanic atom that resides in the Muladhara chakra would then enter into activity, and would control it, causing it to descend from the coccyx downwards towards the atomic infernos of the human being, forming the famous tail with which Satan is represented, the kundartagwaiter. The sexual organs collect satanic atoms of the secret enemy with the genital orgasmic contraction during the seminal ejaculation, tantric orgasm, which is advised by the black magician Omar Terenzi Lind and by the lost and tenebrous Parsival Crumheller. Therefore, when these atoms attempt to ascend upwardly towards Urania, they then are violently rejected by the akashic breath, which throws them downwards towards the coccyx. This sexual practice awakens the Muladhara negatively and causes a certain atom of the secret enemy to enter into activity. This atom then exercises control over the kundalini, directing it downwards towards the submerged worlds of consciousness, thus forming the famous kundartagwaiter, tail of demons. This is how the disciples of these black magicians separate themselves from the divine triad, Atman Buddhimanas. This is how they convert themselves into tantric personalities of the abyss. The akasa is not the ether, as many believe. The akasa is the cause of sound, the spiritual cause of the verb, the anima mundi. The divine hierarchies, whose breath enters through the magnetic field of our nose. This is why the sacred scriptures say that God blew a breath of life into the nose of Adam and he infused a living soul into him. And the Lord Jehovah formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. Genesis 2:7. Chapter 29. The first holy chamber of the root of the nose. You have defeated subtle ordeals, O Arhat. Now, my brother, enter into the first holy chamber that leads from the middle brow to the heart. You have begun to unite the mind with the heart. Now, my brother, enter into the temple in order to celebrate the feast. Be joyful, O heart, sing child of mine. Finally, after many centuries, the mind and the heart will be united. Sing, O heart, because your mind has been humiliated before the majesty of the intimate. Sing, O heart, because the mind advances within the burning fire towards you. Sing, O heart, because wisdom will now convert itself into love. You have entered the holy chamber of the magnetic field of the root of your nose. The temple is in festivity, my child, because the ship of your mind is coming from the other shore to the ineffable beaches of Eden, where the rivers of the pure water of life flow with milk and honey. Sing, O heart, sing, because the rebel house of Israel has been afflicted and humiliated before its God. Sing, O heart, sing, because your sailing ship advances towards the port of light. Sing, O heart, because your mind is now liberated from all types of schools, religions, orders, sects, lodges, classrooms, concepts of mother countries and flags, prejudice, desires, fears, hatred, envy, intellectualism, sophism, theories, etc. Intellectualism can only conduce humans towards black magic because it is always accompanied with pride and selfishness. Are not perhaps the proud ones, are not perhaps the erudite ones of spiritualism indeed those who have always criticized and attacked us and who have angrily torn up our books? Intellect by itself only conduces humans towards black magic. Those who always criticize, refute and attack us do so only because they are moved by their pride, selfishness and vanity. Master H. P. Blavatsky knew adepts of a very middle intelligence, but they were adepts. The powers of the masters emanate from their purity of life and the merits of their heart. The powers of the master emanate from his internal God and from the harmony with nature and the law. When the personal ego restores itself in its divine eternal triad after each reincarnation and abandons the mental body, it is disintegrated and its atoms remain scattered in the mental plane. These mental atoms are attracted again when the intimate reconstructs a new mental body in order to enter through the doors of a new reincarnation in the school of life. These manasic atoms, tanhikas causes, and other types, are of the same nature of manas, meaning they are of the same nature of the mental body. They begin to arrange the atomic structures of this new mental body. Our karma is enclosed within these atoms. This process is repeated through millions of births and deaths. When these atoms of the mind are united with the intimate by means of the fire of the fourth serpent, we then liberate ourselves from the wheel of births and deaths. Nevertheless, in order to be a nirvani without residue, we must liberate ourselves from the good karma and from the bad karma. We must not owe, nor should others owe us. As long as the lions of the law owe us something, we are nirvanis with residue. As long as we owe something, we are nirvanis with residue. We must pass beyond good and evil. We must pass beyond intelligence, and even beyond the ineffable spheres of love. We can rise to the summits of light only on the steps of love and sacrifice. We must perform a lot of good for love to humanity. This is how we pay our debts. Later, the lords of the law must also pay the balance in our favor. In the end, we liberate ourselves from the good karma and the bad karma, and we convert ourselves into nirvanis without residue. The mind must be united with its divine triad, together with the psychic extractions of the astral, vital, and physical vehicles. This is how our triad is reinforced by its inferior quaternary. The inferior manas together with the kamas, prana, and linga reinforce the divine triad by means of fire. For these transcendental goals, we utilize from the same mind only its psychic compaction. The human being reaches the state of turiya when he is capable of conversing with his intimate front to front, face to face. Many ask themselves, how is the intimate? What figure does he have, etc. The more humble and simple a person is, the more easily he can comprehend the nature of his divine eternal triad. However, intellectuals can only comprehend the divine triad with the geometrical figure of the triangle. When the mind is united with the heart, then the mind lives within the triad and it is totally nourished by the triad. Nevertheless, the union of the mind with the heart is possible only by means of the fire. Chapter 30. The Ardent Way. The igneous way that leads from the middle brow to the heart is governed by an atomic God of infinite power. Advance with firm steps towards the second chamber of this ardent way. O Arhat! Fine temptations pursue you. Liquors and pleasures are offered to you, which appear unavoidable. The great monster of jealousy subtly assaults you in the world of flames. Advance, Arhet. Remain alert and vigilant like the watchman in the time of war. This ardent way that leads from the middle brow to the heart is very narrow and very difficult, and it is filled with very subtle temptations. The most dangerous matter is the painful past of your life that is mixed with subtle temptations. You must remain firm against those subtle dangers. The more fine a temptation, the more dangerous it is. During these ordeals, you must demonstrate complete equilibrium of the mind and heart. You approach the second chamber of the igneous way that leads from the middle brow to the heart. My child, you have triumphed over the ordeals. A group of angels joyfully celebrate your victory. You have gained the right to enter nirvana. You have gained the right to enter the cavalry of the army of heaven. Enter your chamber, my child, in order to celebrate your feast. You are in nirvana. You have entered the ineffable joy of nirvana, and all the divine hierarchies are filled with happiness because of your triumph. You are now a blessed one. Chapter 31. The Creative Larynx. You have reached the splendorous flower of your creative larynx. The verb of the gods expresses itself through the creative larynx. Hadith has flourished in your fertile lips made verb. Hadith is the winged serpent of Kundalini. The esoteric name of Kundalini is Solusigisig. This is also the name of the central sun. Each one of these letters should be vocalized. Every letter must be vocalized, prolonging the sound of each letter, just as we have indicated. It is important to prolong the sound of each vowel. The vowel S is like a sweet and affable hiss. The Bible speaks to us of this sweet and affable hiss in the following verses. And he said, Go forth, and stand upon the mount before Jehovah. And, behold, Jehovah passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before Jehovah. But Jehovah was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake, but Jehovah was not in the earthquake. And after an earthquake a fire, but Jehovah was not in the fire, and after the fire a still small voice, hiss. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and went out, and stood in the entering in of the cave. And, behold, there came a voice, hiss, unto him, and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? 1 Kings 19:11-13. The S, as a mantra, permits us to leave our cave, physical body, and to enter upon the mount, astral plane. The vowel S is a mantra for astral body projection. The disciple must become sleepy while vocalizing the sweet and affable sound of the S. When the disciple reaches that state of transition between vigil and dream, then he must rise from his bed and leave the room, going towards the Gnostic Church. Once in the Gnostic Church, we will teach and instruct him in the divine wisdom. However, we must clarify to our disciples that this explanation which we have given must be understood as an immediate action. The student must rise up from his bed, as naturally as would a child who knows nothing of occultism. It is not a mental practice. It is a practice which must be understood as a concrete action, just as when we rise up in the morning in order to eat breakfast. The vowel S has a terrific power. The vowel S is the rune Sieg, and when we vocalize it, lightning is produced in the internal atmosphere. This lightning has the power to awaken the Kundalini. The sexual organ of the future divine humanity will be the creative larynx. The throat is a uterus in which the word is created. The Kundalini gives the larynx the entire omnipotent power of the creative verb. What is important is to learn how to control the feminine principle of the solar forces. The feminine solar forces are symbolized by an eagle with a woman's head. Sexual magic is the way. We must self-realize Christ within ourselves in order to speak the creative verb. However, this is possible only by learning how to control the feminine principle of the sun. We know that sexual magic is very hard and difficult for humans with a weak will. Therefore, we recommend our disciples to first practice the exercises of the rune thorn, in order to acquire the force of willpower, which will permit them to heroically control sexual magic. Our disciples must perform this exercise by placing their hand upon their waist or hip and then vocalizing the syllables t, te, to, tu, ta, prolonging the sound of each vowel. Our disciples who practice this exercise daily will acquire a powerful force of will, with which they will practice sexual magic. Dominating their passionate beast willpower's strength is symbolized by the crown of thorns of the Nazarene Christ. It is necessary to strike the hard flint strongly in order to make the spark of immortality jump. Willpower's strength is the tremendous force of sacrifice. It is the crown of thorns of the Master. The will and movement of the Kundalini are intimately united. Willpower's strength is the rune thorn, and its movement is symbolized by the sign Aun of the Aztec Mexicans. The rune's thorn and movement enclose the secret of our liberation. It is necessary to have the strength of willpower in order to place the Kundalini into motion. The hierarchies related with the elemental department of the cedar tree have the power to open the door of Aun. This door is situated in the inferior orifice of the spinal medulla, and through it we enter the great mysteries of the fire. The mantra that opens this door is Thorn. The mantra Thorn has the power to place the pure akasa into motion in order to awaken the Kundalini and to make it rise through each one of the 33 vertebrae of our spinal column. This mantra has the power to reinforce the pure akasa within our Brahmanic cord. Aun, the sacred sign of the Aztecs Indians, is the door to enter into the great mysteries of the fire. The exercise of Aun must be performed by placing the right arm upon the waist. Then, both arms must be extended towards the left side of the body, and at the end, both arms must be placed upon the waist, while vocalizing the mantra Thorn. The vocalization must be combined with inhalations and exhalations of pure air with the intention of carrying the vital Christ to each one of the 7 bodies. The sign Aun is governed by the sign of Scorpio, which controls the sexual organs. We know that the whole power of the Kundalini is found in the phallus and in the uterus. The secret for awakening the Kundalini is contained within the union of the two. On one occasion, when conversing with a master of the Great White Hierarchy, he touched my sexual organs in order to examine me. I then felt an electric shock throughout my body. The master was very content and said to me, "You are progressing very well. Nature has its origin in the fire, and the entire power of the fire is found enclosed within our sexual organs." In his course of magic runes, Master Huaracocha teaches all these things. However, sacred runes are not the property of Master Huaracocha, because this knowledge is as ancient as the world. It belongs to the great schools of internal mysteries. We do not accept the statement of Master Huaracocha which states that black and yellow-skinned people cannot belong to the White Lodge because it is only for people who belong to the white race. We cannot accept this type of racial prejudice because the White Lodge is universal. Masters from all races exist within our venerable White Lodge. We must not forget that Master Moria and Master Count Humi belong to the yellow race. The white race is not superior nor inferior than other races. Simply, it is different, that is all. We also disagree with Master Huaracocha's despise for Oriental wisdom. Christ taught 3 ways in order to reach the union with the intimate. When he was preaching to the multitudes, when he was mystically exalted, he showed us the way of Ramakrishna, Kempis, and Francis of Assisi. This is the path of Anthony of Padua and Teresa of Jesus. This is the mystical path. When Christ was walking with Magdalene, the repented prostitute, when he was among publicans and sinners, fishermen and wine drinkers, he showed us the Gnostic path. When he retired to the solitude of the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, he then taught the way of Oriental Yoga. The 7 rays of cosmic evolution are synthesized in these 3 ways that the Nazarene showed. Therefore, we cannot despise Oriental wisdom. All human intimates who are fastened to the wheel of births and deaths belong to these 3 ways. With all this, we sustain that sexual magic between husband and wife is the way in order to reach nirvana. Therefore, we cannot accept the racial prejudice of Master Huaracocha for any reason. God has no preference for anyone. All human beings without distinction of sex, race, creed, or color are beloved children of the Father. They have the same rights. We also cannot accept the absurd thesis of Master Huaracoca, who stated that it is a sin for a man of one race to become married with a woman of another race, and that the bastard children are children of the devil. We recognize that Master Huaracoca is a guru of the Universal White Fraternity. It is evident for me that he is an archbishop of the Gnostic Church. Yet, he committed a lamentable mistake when he made these statements in his course of magic runes. There is no doubt that if the Guru Huaracoca had a physical body, he would rectify those errors. Humans commit errors, however, only those who are stubborn remain in the error. Be thou, O Hadith, the Gnostic secret of my being, the central point of my connection, and if flourish in my fertile lips made verb. When the kundalini of the mental body reaches the rose of the creative larynx, a trumpet of the temple resounds in the internal worlds. Then, we enter the temple in order to celebrate the feast. All human beings, white, black, yellow, red and brown, have the right to speak the verb of light and to form part of the great universal white fraternity, because everyone is a beloved child of the Father. God has no preference for anyone. He equally cares for humans and ants, birds and reptiles. God has no racial prejudice. He loves all his children with infinite love, without distinction of sex, race, creed, or color. We must love all human beings. We must give even the last drop of our blood for all our brothers and sisters who belong to this great human family. Evil ones criticize me because I teach the secret doctrine of Gnostics to humanity. I diffuse all the esoteric teachings in order to save all my brothers and sisters from this humanity. Everything that I know is for my brothers and sisters. Therefore, I have decided to teach them the most sacred things of the universe, so that they may enter Eden, as I have entered. Chapter 32. The Fourth Chamber. You have reached the fourth chamber of the narrow way, which leads from the middle brow to the heart. This chamber is situated beneath the thyroid gland, above the sternum, breastbone, the superior part of the rib cage. Fine temptations have assaulted you in the world of cosmic understanding. You have comprehended how crime is hidden within spirituality. You have understood that crime is also hidden within the incense of prayer. You have also seen how crime is hidden among the pleroma of a spiritual fraternity. You have seen, O brother of mine, how refined, mental adultery with a tinge of transcendental spirituality can emerge from a simple spiritual friendship between two beings of opposite sexes. Now, my child, you are comprehending in what form and in what manner the mind and the heart are united and equilibrated by means of the fire. A door has been opened. Enter, my son, in order to celebrate your feast. The instant has arrived, brother of mine, in which you must be more concerned with music. The orchestras of Eden resound in the infinite spaces, within the great rhythms. The entire universe is supported by the magnificent orchestration of the spheres. Chapter 33. The Fifth Chamber. You have entered the fifth ardent chamber of the narrow way, which leads from the middle brow to the heart. A door has been opened. Enter, my son. Listen now, O Arhat, what the angel is reading from the book. Many sublime things related with the world of cosmic understanding are now being taught to you. You are acting intensely in the world of pure spirit without the necessity of material vehicles. All the principal teachings have been given to you in sacred language. The sun has shone upon the tree of your life, and you have entered the fifth chamber. You see, brother of mine, how you are approaching the sacred temple of the heart. Now you are understanding how to equilibrate the mind and heart. As time passes, you become more aware of how you can act with complete consciousness within your superior I, without the necessity of the four bodies of sin. Truly, child of mine, you are an Arhan. You are a Nirvani. You are a master of major mysteries. Yet, in the world of Nirvana, you have now begun to live as a disciple of the gods. You are a master and you are a disciple. You have learned how to obey and how to command. You are a superhuman. My child, you have built a majestic temple in the astral world and in the mental world, but in the world of Nirvana, you possess only a tiny little chapel. When will you have a great cathedral within nirvana? When will you be an inhabitant of the seventh salon of nirvana? When will you live in that great city of gold of the seventh salon of nirvana? Behold the ineffable beings who officiate in their great cathedrals from nirvana. When will you be as one of them? My brother, now you have only a tiny, little chapel in the first subplane of nirvana. My child, you are now a beginner in nirvana. Duty is much harder for you now, O Arhat. If you want to progress in nirvana, then you must sacrifice yourself for humanity. My brother, you must become a bodhisattva of compassion. Each one of your sacrifices will be paid unto you in nirvana. Thus, my brother, this is the only way in order for you to progress in nirvana. You see, brother of mine, how the fire has transformed you. You see, brother of my soul, that all the secrets of nirvana were carried by you, hidden within your sexual organs. You suffered indescribably when searching for nirvana. You were affiliated to various schools, religions, lodges and orders. Yet, they gave you only a day of consolation. You, child of mine, proclaimed penance and covered your body with sackcloth, but in vain. You, brother of my soul, forgot the door of Eden. This is why you suffered. But, you saw that nirvana was in your sexual organs. What a lot of tasks, child of mine. However, you finally saw the door of Eden within your sexual organs. Thus, this is how you entered. Chapter 34. The sixth chamber. You are now descending little by little, brother of mine, through the interior of your temple, from the tower to the heart. You are seated at the window of the base of your tower. You are in the interior of your temple, brother of mine, and you descend little by little from the cupola to the sacred sanctuary of your heart. The profundity of the floor of the temple is seen from the height of the internal window. The height causes vertigo, my brother. Woe to the Arhat who does not know how to control the vertigo of height, because he will fall into the abyss. Whosoever has understanding, let him understand, and whosoever has ears, let him hear what I am saying to the Arhats. You are very high, O Arhat. An ineffable chorus rises up to your window, from the profundities of your sanctuary. The masters delectably sing in a sacred language. Persevere, O Arhat, be cautious. Be prudent and do not become conceited with the vertigo of heights. Be humble, brother of mine, be perfect, as your Father who is in heaven is perfect. Enter your sixth chamber, brother of mine. This chamber is formed by crossing halls. This chamber belongs to the sixth arcanum of the tarot, the lovers. Do you remember your errors? Do you remember, brother of mine, the tenebrous epochs of your life, when you were experiencing in yourself the sixth arcanum of the tarot? Do you remember the times when you were wandering along the crooked ways of adultery and fornication? Enter now, brother of mine, into this chamber illuminated by the light of your candlestick. Receive your painful memories with patience. Receive your warnings with patience. Receive your feast, O Arhat. Chapter 35. The seventh chamber. You are now before the door of the seventh chamber, O Arhat. This chamber is symbolized by the seventh arcanum of the tarot, the chariot of war. Remember your first love, brother of mine. Remember your divine mother, the blessed goddess mother of the world, who you abandoned when you ate the forbidden fruit. Did she indeed not love you? What were you lacking, my brother? Why did you abandon your mother? Knock, ungrateful son, knock strongly upon the door of the seventh chamber, so that it will be opened unto you. Disobedient child, repent of your ungratefulness. Cry, lament, and fight indescribably so that the gods will open the door of this chamber for you. This is the seventh arcanum of the tarot. You must fight a lot, brother of mine, in order for the gods to open the door of this chamber for you. The seventh arcanum of the tarot is represented by a chariot of war pulled by two sphinxes, one white and the other black. The white sphinx symbolizes the blessed goddess mother of the world, and the black sphinx symbolizes the shadow of the divine mother, Hecate, Proserpine, the queen of the atomic infernos of nature, the black goddess who is greatly adored by the demons of darkness. You abandoned your mother by following this tenebrous goddess of carnal passions. Now, you must repent for your ungratefulness and knock strongly upon the door of the seventh chamber, in order for the gods to open it for you. Enter with your chariot of war, O Arhat. Knock strongly so that they will open the door for you. The door has been opened. Now, enter your chamber, O Arhat. Enter the seventh chamber and receive your feast. You are a child. Powerful weapons have been given to you. If you do not know how to use them, you will hurt others and yourself. Chapter 36. The eighth chamber. Knock strongly on your temple, O Arhat. Be joyful, brother of mine, be joyful, since you have reached the goal of your heart. The specialist who awoke your fourth serpent and who with supreme efforts wisely conduced your serpent to those sacred centers of your heart has been paid. Every work must be paid for, and your specialist has been paid for this grandiose service, which is to have wisely conduced your serpent from the coccyx to the ineffable chambers of your heart. Only unselfish service, chastity and sanctity take us to the ineffable summits. Now, brother of mine, you have seen what is the great service. I know many spiritualist brethren, good and virtuous, who fight for their perfection. I know many brethren who fight indescribably to correct their defects and to purify themselves. Yet, they do not remember others. They feel alone, they fight for their own spiritual progress and for their moral self-development. However, they do not remember that they have brothers and sisters and that all of us are children of the same mother. Their spirituality is selfish spirituality. Therefore, the masters do not owe them anything. There is nothing to pay them because nothing is owed to them. They do not assist anyone. They do not sacrifice themselves for anyone, nor do they fight for the spirituality of anyone. Every initiation is a payment that must be given to the human being. Yet, if nothing is owed to the human being, then nothing is given to him. Therefore, even if he screams and cries out asking for an initiation, he will become old before receiving it. The majestic door of the sacred temple of your heart is opened. Enter, brother of mine, into the great cathedral of the soul in order to celebrate the feast of the Arhat. Enter, brother of mine, into the heart temple, so you may receive the fourth initiation of major mysteries. Where your best clothes, the temple is at feast, because the mind and the heart are united by means of the fire. Some ineffable maidens dance the sacred dance of the runes before you. Your mind hangs from a beams. It is Christified, and it is now unfastened from the cross in order to celebrate the feast. Your mind is now a living Christ. Your mind shines with the sacred power of the fire. Ineffable music resounds in the divine places. The fire of the Arhat shines within the sacred chamber of your heart. You now carry Christ within your heart, and the white dove of the Holy Spirit has formed its abode in your heart temple. Ineffable angels carry the long train of your cloak. The beautiful maidens dance the dance of the runes. The King of the world, seated upon his throne, awaits you, brother of mine. Sanat Kumara, dressed with a ceremonial vesture, delivers the sacred symbol of Mercury to you. You are an imperator of the mind. You are an Arhat of thought. Your mind now bums ardently within the sparks of the universal flames. Your mind now shines within the igneous rose of the universe. You have liberated yourself from the illusion of separatism. You are that. That. You live in all the hearts. You see through all the eyes. You hear through all the ears, because you are that. That. You can now exclaim, I am Atman, the ineffable one. I am what I am. I am the one who has always been, the one who will always be. The entire starry infinite is my body. The entire universe is my personality. This is why I express myself with strength and power, through my Arhats. I cry in the child. I sing in the bird, and I flourish in my pomegranates. Now you must understand, brother of mine, the personality within the impersonality. Now you must comprehend, brother of mine, that the illusion of separatism is a heresy, and that the selfish personality of those who only want to be themselves, and nothing more than themselves, is the worst of the heresies. When I, Aun Weor, affirm that we must have a strong and potent I and a powerful and robust personality, I am not referring to the selfish personality, nor to the animal I. I am referring only to the divine R and to our gigantic personality, formed by all the beings of the infinite. Atman thunders and flashes in all the infinite spaces and manifests himself with potency, through his arhats. Atman, the ineffable one, has no weaknesses. He expresses himself with power and majesty through his prophets. Our I is universal, and all the bodies of all the living beings are the bodies of our internal and divine I. When we have spoken of a strong and powerful personality, many have not understood what is the personality within the impersonality. Thus, they have fallen into the horrible heresy of separatism. Brethren of mine, do not let yourselves be guided by the selfish personality of your mental body, nor by your animal intellect. You must listen only to the intimate who resides in the heart. You must learn to hear the voice of the silence. When we speak of a universal I, we do not fall into the absurdity of Annie Besant, who forgot the individuality of the intimate. We recognize the individuality within the unity of life, and although we know that the drop sinks into the ocean, we also know that the ocean sinks into the drop. Atman is one who expresses himself as many. The ardent sea of life, free in its movement, has many flames. However, all the flames, when joined, form the sea of ardent fire, the world of the mist of fire. The intimate is individual and universal at the same time. I am the flame that burns in each human heart, as it burns in each grain and in the nucleus of each star. I am the tree, the stone, the bird, the man, the light, the bread, and the wine. Chapter 37. The 7 Centers of the Heart. 7 divine centers exist in the human heart, and as the initiate reaches each one of the great initiations of major mysteries, he penetrates into each one of these cardiac centers. The initiate has access to each one of these centers in each of the 7 great initiations of major mysteries. In the first initiation of major mysteries, the initiate has the right to enter the first center. With the second he enters the second, with the third, in the third, with the fourth, in the fourth, with the fifth, in the fifth, with the sixth, in the sixth, and with the seventh, in the seventh. A mount of immaculate whiteness with the figure of a pyramid is presented before you. Now, brother, enter this sacred chamber where the image of the crucified one shines. You have penetrated into this center before, but now you are entering into it for the 4th time, and in a very elevated form. We always pass through the same centers, each time in a more elevated form, by following the curve of cosmic evolution. Now, brother of mine, enter the 2nd center and receive your feasts and your gifts. Enter the 3rd center and make your ardent sphere that hangs from rope to spin. Receive, brother of mine, music and feasts. And now, enter the 4th center, O Arhat, O Imperator of the Cosmic Mind. This 4th center corresponds to the 4th initiation of major mysteries. You are before the dawn of life, brother of mine. You were a primitive, savage Indian within the virginal jungle of Arcadia. You were worshipping the rising sun, yet you did not use reasoning. You guided yourself wisely with only the voice of your instinct. At the end of your journey, brother of mine, after having Christified your mind, you found that the end is equal to the beginning, plus the experience of the cycle. Did you convince yourself that you could not know more than God? Reasoning is a crime of great magnitude against God. Due to your poor rationalism, you believed that you could know more than God, but you were mistaken, my brother. You have now returned, brother of mine, to the positive pole of the instinct, because the end is equal to the beginning, plus the experience of the cycle. You have returned to the kingdom of intuition, my brother. Are you now convinced of the uselessness of reasoning? Only the path of straight action, ruled by the voice of silence, can take us to the heights of nirvana. Rather than using reasoning and destroying the mental body with the battle of antithesis, it is better to work intensely for the benefit of the human species. When reasoning attacks you, then defeat it with the whip of willpower. When the antithetic battle of concepts wants to divide your mind, Throw it out from you with the whip of willpower and occupy yourself with your duties in order not to leave the field open for useless reasoning. The only thing that the lords of karma are interested in your works. The lords of karma are not interested in your reasoning processes. The process of conceptual selection, the depressing process of options, causes serious damage to the mental body. When the damage crystallizes in the physical brain, then sicknesses of the brain appear, such as intellectual mania, alcoholism, neurasthenia, and madness. You cannot know more than God, brother of mine. Thus, your reasoning is good for nothing. Cast all the merchants out from the temple of your mind with the terrific whip of willpower. Christify your mind, good disciple. Transmute the water into wine and open your doors to your internal God, so that he may teach you the divine wisdom. Thus you will eat the bread of wisdom without the necessity of useless reasoning that destroys your mental body. Hospitals and clinics exist in the mental plane, where millions of mentally ill bodies are confined because of the painful process of reasoning. The mental bodies of many initiates that have destroyed their minds with the process of reasoning are hospitalized within these hospitals of the world of the mind. The mind must flow silently and integrally without the depressing process of reasoning. What is important is the path of straight action. What is important is intuitive action. Intuitive action is just action, just thought, just feeling, divine transmutation, action of plenitude, complete activity, just activity, expressed sanctity, work in plenitude, wisdom in action, and active love. The humanity of Aquarius will be an intuitive humanity. O Imperator, you saw how many beings began this journey with you. Millions of human beings began to climb the spiral mountain of life. Yet, the majority of them tumbled into the abyss and converted themselves into demons. Only a handful of beings have reached the top of the mountain with you. Enter the temple, O Arhat, in order to celebrate the feast. The temple is decorated for the feast. Sanat Kumara, the Elder of Days, awaits for you upon his throne. His majestic voice resounds as the voice of the army. The Mother Goddess of the world places the sacred mantle of the Buddhas and the diadem with the eye of Shiva upon your head. The eye of Dagma shines in your middle brow and Sanat Kumara exclaims, "You are a Buddha. You have liberated yourself from the four bodies of sin. You are an inhabitant of the world of the gods. You are a Buddha." The Ancient of Days gives you the tunic of the Buddha. Receive it, my brother. During these moments, a child filled with beauty comes out of your mental body. He is the psychic extraction of your mental body. He is your Christ mind. This beautiful creature is now completely fused with your divine eternal triad. The Christ mind is formed in your mental body. The Christ mind is pure transmuted semen. The Christ mind is the result of sexual magic. You are a blessed one, O Buddha. Sanat Kumara offers you a new throne. All the brethren of the temple are happy. All are rejoicing with the new Buddha. All of them embrace you and kiss you with holy kisses. The feast is immense. The Mother Goddess of the world has given birth to a new Buddha in the world of the gods. Now you are shining with immaculate beauty within this igneous rose of nature. Your inferior Manas has been fused with Atman Buddha Manas on the seat of pure Brahma, where only the sacred wisdom of Bodhidharma shines. The Mother Goddess of the world exclaims, "Behold, here is a very beloved son. Here is a new Buddha. This is the wisdom of the heart. This is the seal of the heart's wisdom." At last, mind and heart are totally fused. The music of the spheres resounds within the divine environs and the goddesses dance with the sacred runes in the temple of the gods. Samael Aun Weor.